Hey guys, Brook Potter here. I first and foremost I apologize if the quality of this video is not up to stuff. I'm using my laptop and these headphones, these AirPod things, um, because I just had a conversation with a Trinidadian living out here in the UK, and it was it was an interesting conversation, but it reminded me of a couple of the things that I didn't particularly like about dealing with culturally back in Trinidad and Tobago. And I said, all right, let me make a video about some of the things that what it was like for me living out there, which wasn't as great and rosy as some people might think. Um, no, I mean, for anybody who knows, a very common thing that I am confronted with out here is I don't look Trinidadian, which this gentleman was very quick to point out. For those who don't know, Trinidad and Tobago tends to be pretty evenly mixed between the African descended population and the East Indian descended population, and there is a minority of mixed, white, Asian, Syriac, and Arab, Lebanese, and so, like all those other groups make up, anywhere between 1 maybe 2% of the population. So as a result, most Trinidadians don't look like me, which this guy was very quick to point out. But yeah, growing up as a minority in Trinidad and Tobago definitely had its challenges. I mean, I used to go to my secondary school, which was Queen's Royal College, for anybody who knows that's out there. And while waiting for my transportation outside, a lot of people would see me waiting outside. And I mean, I kind of stood out from the crowd. And they would always comment to me, like, if I'd meet them later, that, people used to think I used to get my ass beaten at school, like, every day. Which never happened. I never had any kind of racial issues or anything like that in the school from any of my fellow students. Were bloods, and it's I've never had an issue. Um, I mean, I've had some discrimination against me from the administration. I mean, one such example is, as many people didn't know this, but I went basically the 5 years of school that I went to at Queen's Royal College. I went there with no food, right? Um, it was a complicated situation. My parents had just split. My mom was not in the best of ways, and I simply I didn't get breakfast, and I usually the first meal that I'll eat in the day was somewhere like 3 or 4 in the afternoon when I finally got home. And I remember they just implemented the school feeding program, of which I was a prime candidate for that, and I put my name down to collect this we called it a box lunch, and it was great for like a couple of weeks or months. I can't remember how long I was involved in the program. It was really good, and for the first time in a long time, I actually got like a decent meal. Now, even prior to that, I have to admit, my friends were great. They would share bits of their sandwiches with me, and some of their soft drinks and whatever, just to kind of help me get through the day and stuff. I mean, one of my friends is very, very, he used to have these great cheese sandwiches. If you see this, I always appreciated that, and it was always a good thing. Um, but yeah, but as the program progressed, as sometimes you do with government programs, there was a lot of abuse. And at some point, the administration removed my name. I mean, not just me, but a couple of people from the program. But I was never consulted on it. I was never asked about my home situation or what's going on and stuff like that. Um, Even though I technically was a candidate for the feeding because the home situation wasn't great, and I just didn't have any food. But I mean, I'd been so accustomed to doing that for years. It didn't matter for the last few years when I went back, and I was not part of the school feeding program. So I mean, yeah, those kinds of issues did come up. I was tremendously harassed by the police when I finally started driving. I used to have this Nissan Sunny B11 car, this hand me down from my great aunt, and I would routinely be stopped by the police harassing me for money and other things. A couple of times I was beat up, and it's just some crazy experiences. I mean, they only did that when I was younger. As I got older, and I guess the status of my car improved, I was harassed less and less. But yeah, that's something I don't miss. There is a lot of discrimination and some tribalism and some racism that's out there that I'm not a fan of. I'm not privy to. I don't particularly like. getting down into those types of conversations and stuff like that. But yeah, it was a real issue, and meeting this guy today definitely reminded me a lot of that, as he had some pretty choice words for me, simply because of the color of my skin. The second thing that I had to deal with quite regularly is this know-it-all attitude that Trinidadians have, right? Um, when I tell people what I do out here, I'm trading, I'm managing my financial portfolio, I'm dealing in real estate and stuff like that. So if I tell people, okay, I'm a portfolio manager, suddenly they know everything about that business. They know everything about, currency trading, and they heard about some school that's teaching something and I should go and check them out. And again, it's this attitude like they know everything, right? It's a funny situation. Um, I mean, even on regular comments that I might make, for instance, like I'm doing this carnivore diet, which I'm still on, and I'm having a great experience. Even up to this day, I received a barrage of, uh, comments and articles and stuff like that from Trinidadians who don't know what I've researched on these topics. They don't know the people that I've been in contact with. They don't know, the research that I've been reading, and some of the podcasts about these issues have come up. But, simply because Trinidadians know everything, they feel the need to throw in their opinions and their 2 cents into my life. And, many times I'm just kind of rolling my eyes. So, I mean, if you see any kind of comments that are coming at me and I simply don't respond, it's not because I can't, it's because it's just not even worth having the conversation. and yeah, dealing with Trinidadians in that regard, especially out here, it's everybody's an expert. Everybody knows everything, right? Even when they're wrong, they still know everything. And yeah, it's comical. It's comical. No, it's not. I know it's not only Trinidadians. I've dealt with other people from other countries, and they have that same thing. But getting it from your own people gets quite tiresome. That tends to be my biggest source of criticism and commentary at the moment. And the last thing on this is, this it's a very strange thing about this. You know, I think Bunji Garlin did a video about this, or he talked about this in an interview not long ago in New York. I'll see if I can find the video and put the link below. But there's this great esteem in Trinidad for things that are international. Now, this is common knowledge. Trinidadians do not necessarily have that groundswell of support for their artists, musicians, sportsmen and women. Um, there isn't a lot of, like, grassroots fanfare for these things. It is only when something goes international. So Bunji was talking about his song Differentology, which people in Trinidad know for Ready for the Road, that had crossover success internationally and stuff like that. And so a lot of people who didn't like the song suddenly like the song because it has international acclaim. And that tends to be a very common thing, where I can speak about this from personal experience back in 2005 and 2006, before Trinidad had qualified to get into the FIFA World Cup I think it was in Germany. Me and my family, we would go and watch a couple of the games with the then Soca Warriors, and the place, it was crickets. There's very few people ever turned out to watch the team. And it was only when they qualified for the World Cup, suddenly everybody, is the biggest Soca Warrior fans, and they've been supporting them from day one, right? And now I fully admit that I am a bandwagonist. I'm not a huge football fan. I like to go and watch a good game. I like to, I don't always pick sides and stuff like that. I watch the World Cup, sometimes the Euro Cup, but I'm not a diehard fan. So I'm not trying to claim that that I have any kind of special relationship with the football out there. But once they did get in, suddenly the stadiums were packed. Every venue was loaded out. Every car had a Trinidad flag. So there's this kind of thing that's going on. And in relation to the guy that I met today, he's practically homeless, but and he comes from a pretty well-to-do family, if what he told me is true. And I just kind of asked him, and I said, well, if things are so hard for you out here, why don't you just go back home? And in his mind, and this is a common thing, I guess, amongst Caribbean people, You know, his family boast of him because he lives in the UK. Even though he's practically homeless, his claim to esteem is the fact that he's escaped the island almost. And there's a lot of that out here, which I get it to an extent, but it's a very bizarre thing where it's just this international view is just held in much higher esteem, and it's very strange. It's very bizarre. And as I say, the guy, he'd rather live here on the streets and camping out in tents than go back home and live, a pretty comfortable lifestyle. It's very bizarre. But yeah, that's something I never understood. And, um, I mean, we see it reflected a lot in, yeah, definitely the carnival and, some of the artists and stuff like that. It's disappointing to say the least. Unlike the Jamaicans who have this great respect for their reggae and their dancehall artists, and they have that kind of we'll support you until you make it sort of thing. Trinidadians tend to be the opposite, and it could be very discouraging. So you might really be somebody on a path to do some really great things and represent the country well and stuff like that, but you don't necessarily have the support behind it, whether it's in business, arts, sports, or whatever the case is. And yeah, I never appreciated that the Trini attitude. That they don't necessarily see everyone as family and stuff like that, and they're not all supporting everybody unless they feel you're worth supporting. And I think that's probably put us at a disadvantage for a lot of fantastic, talented people out there. So yeah, I was reminded of all of those things. I'm sure I'm going to get a hell ton of criticism, especially from fellow Trinis and stuff like that. Uh, yeah, I've gotten used to it. If anybody's read my comments, you've seen the kinds of things that have been said about me. But nonetheless, yeah, let's have the conversation. I just wanted to share these things. So yeah, if you like this video, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment below if you disagree with me, or if you think there are other things that maybe I could touch on my experience with. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. Take care.